Welcome back to Friday Morning Kitchen Science at Balch Nature School teachers, Miss Libre and Miss Carolyn. The last couple of weeks, we've been talking about how plants grow and looking at the different parts involved in growing plants. We're going to first start with looking back, and then we'll come right into our new parts. We have talked over the last weeks about planting from seeds. When we use the eyes on a potato, we've talked about using bulbs. Here's a garlic bulb with its little basal bottom and its pointy top. Bulbs grow their leaf is inside that structure. I don't know if you can see in that little garlic I cut open this morning. It's got that leaf starting. Of course, rhizomes. And rhizomes are part of the stem that the leaf part grows up, and those little nodes have different little plants coming off from them. They grow a root system down. So there's the rhizome. We also want to look back at how that we started some plants that were pieces of food that we cut apart. And Miss Libre, you've got some really cool growth going on your carrots this week, haven't you?
I do. My carrots have undergone a tremendous growth spurt. So I think they're probably double the height that they were last week. And last week we kind of checked the bottoms to see what was happening under there. Yeah. And we noticed right here and on the top, it's swelling and some roots are going to come out. And I was thinking about how part of being a scientist is having ideas and theories and thinking of things. And my thought on the carrot is, will this top of a carrot grow a whole other carrot? And I'm thinking it won't, but that's part of the experiment. So that's my hypothesis. It will not create a whole other carrot, but we'll have to wait until the experiment is done.
And I had cut an eye section from potato, and I put one in water, and I have this lovely little greenery coming, and I've got, can you see those little, I'm going to set this down, these little roots right behind it coming up, and then I put the other one in dirt, and look at the greenery coming on that. Today, because the greenery is up about this high, I'm going to need to add some more soil. So I'm going to dump in a couple more scoops of soil to help that plant continue to grow. So we're going to just scoop that right in and put it up around that greenery so it will start growing root structures out.
And what I'm noticing is that with my potato, which is still just in water, I have a tremendous amount of root growth, but my sprouts are not as tall as yours, and I don't have any leaves. And that would lead me to believe that the potato, there's something in the soil that the potato needs to help that grow. So it doesn't need just light and just water. There must be one more element that this potato needs. So we'll do some thinking on that too.
Ooh, good questions. Another thing that we set in water was an avocado pit. And this has been 3 weeks now, but it's starting to split at the top. You can see that little bit of a split, and get it's getting some little bumps, some little nodes on the top. Be interesting to see what happens with that. And Miss Libre, you started a plant with toothpicks and water too. Did that continue?
I have a sweet potato, and it's not making much progress. It's not backtracking at all, but I don't have any greenage yet. No, I still have, last week we showed the edges, and
oh, look,
Yep.
Boy, those
So
are
there's
changing.
that root. Yep.
Yeah.
They're growing, but very slowly.
And I've heard sweet potatoes take their time at doing it, but they make wonderful vines. So that will be a fun experiment to follow up on. Well, thank you very much for part of the look back. It's time to move forward. We talked about bulbs last week. We're going to move on to another plant part that looks a lot like a bulb, but it's called a corm. A corm is a little bit flatter. It doesn't have the beginning of the leaf inside. It has the food needed to grow the plant. So the corm, this one is from a crocus plant, and another common corm is gladiolas. Can you think of any other corms, Miss Libre?
I can't, other than flowers. I've been trying to think of corms we eat, so that might be something we need to look into.
I like that question. I'd like to know that. I've been trying, I'd like some thoughts on that one. And I don't know if you can see the roots or the basal part at the bottom, the roots coming down, and it's just a little bit flatter. It doesn't have that pointy top that the bulb does. And of course, bulbs that we eat would be like our onions and garlic, and bulbs that we plant like our tulips and daffodils.
So they're like a bulb, but not exactly the same.
Very similar looking, but a little bit flatter is my understanding. And when I look at the plant parts, that seems to be true. If you had crocuses in your garden this spring, you might want to try digging up a couple. Or if you're going to be planting gladiolas, check those out. Check out how the structure looks different than that of a bulb, like for a tulip.
Right.
All right.
So since we compared corms and bulbs, I thought we would do another comparison. We talked about rhizomes last week, which you showed the ginger. And last week I had this violet. Mine actually has a little flower. He's broken. And you can see they're not really particular. There are shoots coming from the bottom too. Shoots and roots. But the rhizome is very thick and very sturdy. Something that gets confused and called a rhizome is another structure called a stolon. Stolons also grow along the ground, and one item I heard you call creeping Charlie. This is non-edible. I've heard it called ground ivy, and that's an example. So even though, much like a rhizome, it grows horizontally, the stolon actually grows very close, if not on top of the soil, very close to the surface. It has the mother plant, and then she'll send out the shoot, and little roots and leaves will come out, and that one sent another shoot. So this is the stolon, the connector in between, and she sent out another one, and it goes on and on. Lots of our grasses. So not as sturdy and not exactly the same growth pattern as the rhizome. And one of our favorite stolons is the strawberry plant. And again, you can see, here's the mother. It looks quite like a rhizome, but it doesn't have the same leaf scale structure. So there's the mom. She shoots out. This is last year's stolon. Send it out. Plunk a baby off that. Another plant will grow, and that would send out another stolon. And this one actually has a little flower bud on it as well. So she's getting ready to produce her flower and fruit. So that's a stolon versus a rhizome. From the top, they look similar. We got to dig down in that soil to know what's really going on.
With the creeping Charlie or ground ivy plant, the runner again, or that's stolen, is on top of the ground, and it sends its little plants out from there. With a strawberry, the stolen is on top. But when you look at grass, the stolens tend to go underground. So you have to dig to find the stolen. If you ever had a garden space that you were trying to take the grass out of, you've more than likely come across this type of a structure in your garden bed. And they can go really deep. And each one of those little nodes sends out roots and more little plants coming up. And it continues on and on and on. So that's one type. Another one of my favorite flowers in the early spring runs on a stolen as well. And that is Lily of the Valleys. Again, the root structure looks different than a rhizome, and it produces that stolon that goes out and shoots up a baby and continues on. And you get all these little ones that come out from that stolen plant. So those are two more examples of stolen plants.
Right. I wonder if there's anything we can do with rhizomes and stolons besides eating them.
That's a good question. We've been brainstorming and thinking, well, what do we do? And I thought, oh, I know, when I was cleaning out a flower bed last spring, I got this very long stolon. I just round it around itself and around to make a little, could be either a crown or a wreath. Working while they're fresh from the ground, they're soft and leathery, so they bend, and you can just keep winding them around themselves. If I had this out with me now, and I was working in the garden and I had a nice long root, I would wrap it around. And then this spring, I was working near where we had cut off lots of wild rose bushes, and I came up with real long roots, and they were sending up new plants, and it's like a stolen. And from a couple of roots, I was able to make this little wreath. And so you can do that too. Like I said, you could make it into a wreath, you can make it into a crown, add flowers, find other natural materials that could be added into them. You can either use a little bit of wire or some hot glue, or I was using just good old thin carpet string and tying on some decorations for your wreath or your crown.
Fantastic. A great example about how much more flexible the stolen is than a rhizome. Because even fresh from the ground, if I tried to manipulate this rhizome, it's just going to want to split. It doesn't have that smooth flexibility. It's going to want to break at those nodes.
Those are some fun things that you can do. If you come up with other ideas, please share them with us. We would love to hear. And put on your scientist thinking cap and look at some different plants.
I have one thing to show. I was so excited about us planting things. And when we did our carrots, we forgot my celery's in soil. I haven't seen a tremendous difference. And it's interesting, the soil has actually now created, because there are often bacteria in soil, good bacteria, but now I have a little mold problem. Those bacteria are feeding, so that's something I'll need to think about. But I went to my food scrap pile and I pulled out the top of a pepper plant, and then I put the seeds in some soil just for fun, and they're sprouting.
Oh, you're getting some pepper plants.
So I, cut the top off, put it in a cup of dirt just to see what would happen.
One of my favorite seed projects is after we take a little pumpkin that's sort of overripe or a gourd, and you leave it in your food pile out in the winter, all winter long, and check it in the spring. and find out if any of those seeds are growing.
And so we've looked now at maybe 4 to 5 different ways that plants grow. And even though we didn't discuss it out loud, we're talking to scientists here. So I think we know that most plants need water, keep their cell structure strong and keep them upright. And they need light to photosynthesize. And like the potato, it has light and it has water, and it seems it needs something else. So I think that might be a good question for us to lead into in our next video. What else helps plants grow besides water and sunlight?
So we'll be talking about our garden helpers next week. Thank you very much for joining us for another Kitchen Science Friday with a Balch Nature School. And we look forward to hearing from you. We will be posting some photographs and pictures about the things we've been talking about, along with a video on our Fairbanks Museum Learning website, virtual learning website. And have a great weekend and enjoy planting.
Keep digging and keep growing and keep exploring.
And keep asking questions.
Absolutely.
Yes.
See you next week.